I picked up more comics, my 2023 goals list. Stay tuned to see what I picked up. Welcome back, comic book fans. This is Rusty again with Collector Auctions, and in today's video, I've got a short comic book haul. These are some books that I picked up that are all from my 2023 goals list. I've been real focused on that lately, and these are some great books I've been picking up from Heritage Auctions and some more books from Comic Link. And the last one I'm especially happy about getting. I can't wait to show that one off. It's been one that I've been wanting for years, and I ended up picking it up from Comic Link. Stay tuned for that one as well. Now, before we get started, make sure you hit that like button, slap the subscribe, and definitely hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on great comic book content like this each and every week on Mondays and Fridays at 10 a.m. Now, let's get to the books. All right, so the very first books that I've got here are all going to be coming from Heritage Auctions, and they are part of one of my overall goals list for 2023 and beyond. It is the largest project I'm working on, and possibly, I would say almost the easiest, only because there's so many different books to get. I can work on them all the time. And let me show you what I'm talking about. First one I picked up was XMen 134. And this is part of that John Byrne XMen run that I'm collecting at a 9.6 or a 9.8 or above. And usually what I'm doing now is I'm looking for these 9.6s on these auction sites, or when I go to shows, and I'm looking for these because I have said this in the past, that I think that the 9.6 you can find at really fantastic values. And that's what I did with these books today. In fact, all these books today come from Comic Link and Heritage Auctions, and not all of them are X-Men, of course, but all of these share the same thing in common, and that they've all been well under market. What you're going to go out there and you're going to find, I paid far less on every one of these. And again, just like my last episode, you can find these books out there right now on these auction sites and maybe even eBay as well. You can find them for below market value. And this right here was a great issue. It's one of my favorites. It's the very first introduction, the first cameo appearance, first appearance, I'm not sure how you would qualify it, of the Dark Phoenix. And that's a wonderful end. What a cliffhanger at the end of the issue there, right? So I always loved this issue. This came out in June of 1980. Chris Claremont, John Byrne goodness, of course. And I think I actually probably already have this, but can't help but pick these up when I find them at really good values. And I will tell you this, that one of the things that on these 9.6s I've been picking up that I've been finding is that it's interesting that you can find these. I think they're really good. In fact, they might possibly be candidates to break out if you really want to shoot for that 9.8. But for the time being, they're going to stay at this 9.6 level. All right, let me put this one away. And let me show you the next one. It's another X-Men. This is issue 114. Now, what's significant about this issue, this is the first time you get the words The Uncanny X-Men. And this came out in October of 1978. And just a great issue. It's the end of what happened after the big battle with Magneto, and the X-Men find themselves in the Savage Land. So you've got Khazar and Sauron. I'm not sure if Khazar shows up in this one, but definitely Sauron at the very end here. So it leads into a storyline that lasts for a few issues, and great cover right there. In fact, I was just looking at this and I realized that, wow, John Byrne actually drew Wolverine more to his stature than what we're used to seeing these days, where he's much taller. You've got to remember, he was meant to be a small person. You know, small and powerful, of course, but like a Wolverine, right? So I thought that was interesting just to see how short he's actually drawn here on the cover. But another great X-Men issue. I don't know if I'd had this one graded yet or not, but I definitely hadn't got it in a 9.6, so I was happy to pick this one up. Again, this is one that, looking here, might be a candidate to clean and press a little bit, but it's a recent submission because you've got the barcode here on the back. So we have to really examine these to see if it's going to be a candidate for that. But we'll continue with the next book, and I'll tell you a little story about those first two in a second as we get to this one. This was all from Heritage Auctions. In fact, this was all in the same order. And the same week, same auction. I bought them all at the same time. This is X-Men 142. It's part 2 of that that Days of Future Past storyline. It came out in February 1981. Again, another 9.6. And what's significant about this for me, at least it's not just this issue, but there's other two that I just showed you. If you'll notice, these both are in brand new cases, whereas this one is an old case. And I'll tell you this, and I realized I misspoke there when I said it's got a brand new barcode on that last one, because yeah, it's true, but there's a reason for that. I forgot as I was getting ready to tell you this. This order was purchased, I paid for it, and then I got a message from Heritage Auctions saying, hey, there were cracks in 2 of the cases, and they offered me basically compensation to get it reholdered myself, or they would just take care of it. And I said, why don't you guys go ahead and take care of it yourself? I figured that with their relationship, I'm sure they've got a much better relationship with CGC than I do. They would probably, that order would be handled fairly quickly, and it was. It wasn't probably, it's probably less than about 4 or 5 weeks, maybe just under a month to get this back in. And so those 2 were already reholdered because they had cracks in it. I kind of wish that they had just asked me, hey, do you want us to go ahead and get this one reholdered too? Because eventually down the line, I'll get this reholdered as well. But couldn't be happier to have all 3 of these in the PC, knock them off that list. I will have to find out what number of 9.6s, 9.8s I've got in this run of, what is it, about 34, 36 issues. It runs from 108 to 143 minus, it's either 1 or 2 issues that Dave Cochran actually did. Maybe it's just 1. But regardless, I'm happy to have these in the PC. And again, all of these came from Heritage Auctions. All right, so the remaining books all came from Comic Link, and I've recently just gotten back onto Comic Link after a hiatus. It's one of those, I don't think about Comic Link that often until I'm thinking about a book, and when I can't find it available on eBay or on Heritage, like, hey guys, why don't we check out Comic Link? So I went there, and there happened to be some auctions that were getting ready to end. It wasn't too long, and so I ended up picking up a few books from Comic Link. I don't know if these were all during the same period, but I think they were definitely ones that happened over the course of a couple weeks. So let me show you this one. I'm continuing with that John Byrne XMen. This is 115. This is that next issue. Of course, you got Sauron right there in the cover, and you definitely have a Khazar appearance after that in this. So happy to have this again in the collection. It's another old case though, so I'm starting to compile a few books that will be going in for reholdering at some point. And one of the things I do with reholderings is I will put it in with another order that I'm sending in the CGC to save on cost rather than have multiple packages. But I like to put these orders in when I send things in for some of the Signature Series signings, because those boxes have to be marked so that they are opened up on a timely basis. Like if you're doing Frank Miller, you would have been a big FM all across the box, so they knew that when that box came in, it was for a Frank Miller signing. Well, there's some signings that are coming up that I'm going to participate in, so what I'll probably do is when I send those books in, I will send this book and that other XMen in to get reholdered. And what I found is they'll go ahead and open it up and get into the system. Now, whether or not they take their time to get the books reholdered, I've heard horror stories on reholdering right now. It's upwards of 5 or 6 months. We'll see how long it stays in the queue. I sent in a few books just a few weeks ago. Again, I don't even remember. I know Frank Miller, I think it was Alex Ross. Who else was there? There was a couple others, and I sent them all in at the same time. And I definitely sent in a couple of books to be reholdered, and it's already in the system. So we'll see how long it takes. But I want to get these all in the bright new cases. You can definitely tell the clarity. Now it's a little hard there as I'm holding it up, but in person you can definitely see how much clearer the new cases are to the old cases. Plus the labels look better. So look forward to seeing that at some point. All right, so the next 2 books that I got from Comic Link are ones that are very minor on my to-do list, my goals list, and I didn't necessarily get them at the grades I really want them at, but compared to some of the other ones in this storyline, they're all going to fit in that same grade class. And I was real happy with it because I think it's a neat storyline to collect. And let me show you. First one here, it's Captain Marvel number 28. It's part of that Jim Starlin Thanos storyline that was so good. I mean, honestly, I would have done this. If I was Marvel, I would have done this story to introduce Thanos. I think it was definitely a more interesting story. I enjoyed this storyline much more than any following Thanos storyline. And it was a great interaction between Thanos, Captain Marvel, and the Avengers. And it had some crossovers in there. I want to say issue 125 of the Avengers was part of that. There might have been something else in there. I'm not sure. But this is an 8.5. I didn't pay a lot for this. This is not necessarily a grade that you want at an 8.5, but it was relatively cheap, and I put in a very low bid and won this one. But I also picked up the last issue in that storyline as well, and that is issue 33. And it's got this great Thanos cover and Captain Marvel right there, and it's the last issue in the storyline, of course. And this is what I've gotten graded. I have to check and see what my grade was on the one that I had submitted when I cleaned and pressed. But again, I didn't pay a lot for this. This is a grade. I would have much preferred a 9.4 to a 9.6 on something like this. But when you buy these books graded, the higher you go, sometimes the higher the prices. And I felt that these were good just to have in the PC. There's no real spec on this at all. And I just like to have it in my PC. I've got just a couple more of these issues to go to collect the whole storyline that ran from issues 26 up to 33. And the very last book that I ended up getting from Comic Link, this is the one I teased about earlier, saying I couldn't believe how happy I was to get this. This is a book that's been on my radar for years and years and years, and it is one of my favorite characters, and it's probably one of my favorite this book is one of my favorite issues from Stan Lee, Jack Kirby. It's early Fantastic Four. Let me show you what it is. It is issue number 19, the first appearance of Rama Tut. And this right here, of probably the first 25 to 30 issues of Fantastic Four, it's probably one of my top 3 books that I enjoyed more than any other. This one, issues 4 and 5, of course you got the Submariner and you've got the Doctor Doom issues, but this right here, to me, was right there in that. I enjoyed this one. I actually go back and read this story probably once or twice a week sometimes, and love it. I love Rama Tut. I loved how they retconned that later on to being a Kang variant and part of that storyline. I always really enjoyed this character. I've always been fascinated with time travel. So this right here is an issue that had, of course, over this last year with the speculation that Kang was going to be in the MCU. Of course, we've already seen him now. And this is a book that skyrocketed, just like the first appearance of Kang in Avengers number 8. And yeah, it's a 3.0. And you might say, well, that's pretty low. And I said, well, at the price I ended up paying, it was a nice price for this entry-level book. I don't have this in my PC. There is definitely some wear. I've looked up the condition of this book. I think there's some, the cover where the staples are slightly detached in different spots. It's no big deal. This presents beautifully. I mean, it looks really good. There's a little bit of wear around the corners, but the cover itself looks really good. The spine actually looks nice. There's not a lot of damage to this, and I don't care. It's a 3.0. It's a nice book. I love having this in the PC. I can always upgrade, but it's nice to finally get it in the PC. Just one of my all-time favorite characters. And that's it for today. Let me know what you think about these pickups by leaving me a comment in the comment section below. And if you're ever interested in any of the books I show off on the channel, please email me at collectorauctions@yahoo.com or DM me on my Instagram page. Or you can check out the books I have for sale directly by going to my eBay store or checking out my listings on Shortboxed. Thank you for watching. Join me next Monday as we go over some more great books. And remember, guys, every comic has a story.